The 1980s didn't just make science fiction movies, it reinvented the future. But here's the unsettling question. Why do some 40-year-old sci-fi films still look more imaginative than modern blockbusters costing hundreds of millions? Tonight, we're revisiting 15 astonishing films that built entire universes with practical effects, fearless ideas, and pure cinematic ambition. Some changed Hollywood forever. Some nearly vanished from memory. Yeah, and one film on this list quietly shaped every sci-fi movie that followed. The Last Starfighter, 1984. The future didn't arrive in a laboratory. It arrived in an arcade cabinet. In the early 1980s, video games were still a cultural experiment. Bright machines humming inside shopping malls and pizza restaurants promised worlds beyond reality. Most people saw them as toys. The Last Starfighter imagined something stranger. What if one of those games wasn't a game at all? The film begins in a quiet trailer park where teenager Alex Rogan spends his nights mastering an arcade machine called Starfighter. To everyone around him, it looks like harmless escapism. Another kid chasing a high score. But the machine is secretly a recruitment test. When Alex finally beats the game, a mysterious stranger arrives and reveals the truth. The cabinet was built by an alien alliance searching for pilots capable of defending the galaxy. Alex hasn't just won a game. He's been drafted into a war. What makes The Last Starfighter remarkable today is its place in technological history. The film became one of the first major productions to rely heavily on computer-generated imagery instead of traditional model miniatures. At the time, the digital starfighters looked futuristic, almost experimental. Hollywood was watching closely. Those early CGI sequences helped demonstrate that computers could eventually replace expensive physical effects. Within a decade, the technology would transform the entire industry. But the film's real charm comes from its optimism. Unlike darker sci-fi stories of the decade, The Last Starfighter captures the wonder of believing that ordinary people, kids from forgotten places, might still be capable of extraordinary destinies. Sometimes, the universe chooses its heroes in the most unlikely arcades. The Abyss, 1989. The ocean floor is the closest place on Earth to an alien planet. Pressure crushes steel. Sunlight disappears within minutes. Communication with the surface becomes uncertain, fragile, easily lost. James Cameron understood that isolation perfectly when he created The Abyss. The story begins after an American submarine mysteriously sinks near a deep-sea trench during the final years of the Cold War. A civilian underwater drilling team is recruited to assist a Navy search mission. What starts as a tense rescue operation slowly turns into something far stranger, because something is already living in the depths. The crew begins encountering glowing, intelligent life forms capable of manipulating water itself. They are curious, observant, and perhaps far more advanced than humanity. What makes The Abyss extraordinary is how it pushed filmmaking technology into unexplored territory. Cameron insisted on shooting much of the film in massive underwater tanks, forcing actors to perform long scenes while submerged. The production was physically brutal. Cast members spent hours diving and decompressing between takes. Equipment constantly malfunctioned. The schedule spiraled into exhaustion. Yet those risks produced one of the most famous effects in science fiction history. The liquid tentacle, a moving column of water that forms a curious alien face. Created through early digital effects, the sequence stunned audiences. It proved computers could animate realistic, organic shapes. That discovery would soon lead directly to Cameron's next breakthrough, Terminator 2. But in The Abyss, the technology serves a deeper idea. Sometimes the most intelligent life in the universe might be watching humanity, quietly waiting to see what kind of species we choose to become. Starman, 1984. Most alien invasion films begin with panic. Cities burn, governments collapse, humanity prepares for war. Starman begins with grief. After a spacecraft quietly intercepts NASA's Voyager probe, an alien visitor travels to Earth carrying a simple message: curiosity. But when the craft is accidentally shot down by the U.S. military, the visitor is forced to hide. To survive, it clones the body of a recently deceased man. That decision places the alien directly in the home of the man's widow, Jenny Hayden. At first, she sees only a stranger who looks impossibly like her dead husband, but slowly she realizes something extraordinary. This man is learning how to be human. Everything fascinates him: language, laughter, music, love. Jeff Bridges plays the visitor with subtle precision, studying human behavior the way a scientist might observe an unfamiliar species. And in many ways, that's exactly what he's doing. What follows is less a traditional sci-fi spectacle and more a road journey across America. Jenny must help the alien reach a rendezvous point in Arizona before government agents capture him. Along the way, the story asks a quiet question. What would humanity look like through the eyes of someone seeing us for the first time? Starman stands out among 1980s science fiction because it refuses spectacle. Instead of lasers and space battles, the film explores vulnerability, empathy, and wonder. And the alien's final message to humanity is simple. You are a strange species, but you are capable of beautiful things. Tron, 1982. Before the internet shaped everyday life, computers felt mysterious. Most people understood them as large machines hidden inside laboratories or corporate offices. Their internal worlds were invisible, abstract systems of code and data. Tron dared to visualize that invisible universe. The story follows programmer Kevin Flynn, who is accidentally digitized and transported inside a powerful computer system controlled by an authoritarian program called the Master Control Program. Inside this digital world, software takes physical form. Programs become warriors. Yen information moves like light, and battles are fought on glowing arenas where machines duel using luminous trails of energy. For audiences in 1982, the imagery was unlike anything Hollywood had attempted before. Director Steven Lisberger combined live-action photography with massive amounts of early computer-generated imagery, creating landscapes made of glowing circuitry and geometric light. The result felt futuristic, almost alien. Ironically, the Academy Awards initially refused to nominate the film for visual effects. Why? Because many voters believed using computers was cheating. History proved otherwise. The techniques pioneered in Tron laid groundwork for the digital filmmaking revolution that would eventually dominate Hollywood. But the film's influence extends beyond technology. Its central idea, that humans might one day enter and interact with digital environments, anticipated virtual reality, video game culture, and the internet itself. At the time, it looked like fantasy. Today, it feels eerily prophetic. Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, 1982. Some science fiction films are remembered for spectacle. The Wrath of Khan is remembered for obsession. The story begins years after a forgotten episode of the original television series. A genetically engineered superhuman named Khan Noonien Singh, once defeated by Captain James T. Kirk, has been exiled on a barren planet. There, he waits. Years pass. His world collapses into dust after a neighboring planet explodes. His people suffer. His wife dies. And Khan becomes consumed by one purpose: revenge. When a scientific experiment accidentally reveals his location, Khan seizes a starship and sets a trap for Kirk. What follows is less a traditional action movie and more a strategic duel between two commanders. Ships stalk each other through space like submarines navigating dark oceans. Each maneuver becomes a calculated attempt to outthink the other. Ricardo Montalban's performance as Khan gives the film its unforgettable intensity. His voice carries Shakespearean fury, part warlord, part tragic exile. The battle between Kirk and Khan becomes personal, philosophical, even poetic. But the wrath of Khan endures for another reason: its ending. Without revealing too much, the final act delivers one of the most emotionally powerful sacrifices in science fiction history. It transformed Star Trek from television nostalgia into something deeper, a story about loyalty, mortality, and the cost of command. Few sci-fi films manage that balance: adventure, strategy, and heartbreak, all drifting silently through space. Mad Max 2: The Road Warrior, 1981. Civilization didn't collapse overnight. In Mad Max 2, it simply ran out of fuel. The film drops viewers into a future where society has crumbled into scattered tribes fighting over the last remaining gasoline. Highways stretch endlessly across the Australian desert, now ruled by violent gangs and armored vehicles. Law no longer exists, only speed. At the center of this wasteland wanders Max Rockatansky, a former police officer who has lost everything: his family, his purpose, and most of his faith in humanity. He survives by moving constantly. Driving across empty highways in a black interceptor car that feels like the last relic of a forgotten world. Then, he discovers a small community guarding something priceless: a working oil refinery. To the people defending it, gasoline represents survival. To the marauders circling the compound, it represents power. What follows is one of the most influential action spectacles ever filmed. Director George Miller created a brutal, kinetic style using real stunt performers, or dangerous vehicle crashes and relentless editing. Cars flip violently through the air, motorcycles explode across the desert. The famous final chase stretches into an extended ballet of destruction. Hollywood took notes. The visual language of post-apocalyptic worlds, from dusty wastelands to leather-clad raiders, largely traces back to this film. But beneath the chaos is a quieter idea. In a broken world, heroism doesn't come from saving civilization. See, sometimes it comes from helping a few survivors escape long enough to build something new. Aliens, 1986. Some sequels repeat the formula. Aliens detonated it. When director James Cameron took over the franchise from Ridley Scott, he made a bold decision. Instead of repeating the slow-burn horror of the original Alien, he transformed the story into a full-scale military science fiction war film. The nightmare had evolved. 57 years after surviving her first encounter with the alien creature, Ellen Ripley is rescued from deep space. No one believes her warnings about the deadly species she encountered, until a colony on the same planet suddenly goes silent. A squad of heavily armed colonial marines is sent to investigate, and Ripley reluctantly joins them. The soldiers arrive confident, equipped with advanced weapons, motion trackers, and armored vehicles. Then they discover the truth. The colony is gone. The aliens are everywhere. What makes Aliens extraordinary is its sense of escalation. The first half introduces confident soldiers with futuristic gear and training. The second half systematically dismantles that confidence as the creatures reveal terrifying intelligence and overwhelming numbers. Suddenly, the hunters become prey. Sigourney Weaver's performance transforms Ripley into one of cinema's most iconic heroes. Her determination to protect a young survivor named Newt adds emotional stakes rarely seen in action-heavy science fiction. But the film's final confrontation, Ripley facing the monstrous alien queen, cemented its legendary status. It's not just a battle between humans and monsters. It's a fight between two mothers determined to protect their own. Robocop, 1987. The future in Robocop is efficient and deeply unsettling. Detroit has become a corporate experiment. Crime is spiraling, the police department is overwhelmed, and a powerful megacorporation, Omni Consumer Products, sees an opportunity. Their proposal is simple: replace human officers with robotic law enforcement. Machines don't hesitate. Machines don't complain. Machines obey. The first prototype fails catastrophically, so the corporation turns to a darker solution. When police officer Alex Murphy is brutally wounded during a violent encounter, scientists seize what remains of him. His body is rebuilt with cybernetic armor, and his brain functions are integrated into a heavily armed machine. The result is Robocop. At first, the transformation appears successful. Robocop patrols the streets with mechanical precision, stopping criminals with ruthless efficiency. But something unexpected begins to happen. Fragments of Murphy's memories begin resurfacing. Director Paul Verhoeven blends explosive action with sharp satire, exposing a world where corporate profit outweighs human life. News broadcasts mock tragedy with cheerful advertisements, and executives treat suffering as a business calculation. Yet beneath the steel armor lies a powerful question. If a machine remembers love, loss, and identity, is it still just a machine? Back to the Future, 1985. Time travel stories usually spiral into complicated paradoxes. Back to the Future made them exhilarating. The adventure begins when teenager Marty McFly is accidentally sent 30 years into the past by an experimental time machine invented by eccentric scientist Doc Brown. The machine itself is unforgettable, a DeLorean sports car powered by a glowing device known as the flux capacitor. But Marty quickly realizes something has gone terribly wrong. While navigating 1955, he accidentally interferes with the first meeting between his parents. If they never fall in love, Marty himself will cease to exist. Now, he must repair history before it collapses. Director Robert Zemeckis constructs the story like a precision engine. Every conversation, decision, and mistake ripples through time, subtly altering the future. Marty must carefully guide his younger parents toward the relationship that originally created his life. What makes the film timeless is its emotional core. Beneath the time travel mechanics lies a universal realization. Our parents were once teenagers too, uncertain, awkward, and full of dreams. Watching Marty discover that truth transforms the story into something unexpectedly personal. And when the DeLorean finally hits 88 miles per hour, science fiction delivers one of cinema's most exhilarating moments. They Live, 1988. The sunglasses reveal the truth. Without them, the world looks ordinary. Billboards advertise vacations, magazines promise success, television entertains millions with cheerful distractions. But once the glasses go on, the hidden message appears: obey, consume, conform. In John Carpenter's They Live, a wandering laborer named Nada discovers that Earth has been quietly infiltrated by aliens disguised as humans. Through subliminal signals hidden in advertising and media, they manipulate society while quietly controlling its wealth and power. Most people never notice, because the commands are invisible. Carpenter wraps this unsettling idea inside a gritty science fiction thriller filled with street fights, conspiracies, and paranoia. The aliens resemble wealthy elites, living comfortably while ordinary people struggle at the margins of society. The film's most famous moment, a long, absurd alleyway fight over whether someone should wear the glasses, has become legendary in cult cinema. Yet beneath the action lies a sharper warning. Systems of control rarely rely on force alone. Sometimes they rely on distraction, comfort, and repetition. And once you finally see the hidden message, the world never looks normal again. The Thing, 1982. In Antarctica, help is impossible. Communication is unreliable. Temperatures plunge far below freezing, and if something goes wrong, rescue may take weeks or never come at all. That isolation becomes the perfect hiding place for a predator. John Carpenter's The Thing begins when American scientists investigate a strange incident at a nearby Norwegian research station. What they discover buried in the ice is an alien organism unlike anything they've ever seen. At first, it appears lifeless, but the creature is very much alive and capable of something horrifying. It can perfectly imitate any living organism it encounters, absorbing its victims and replicating them down to the smallest detail. Voice, appearance, or even memories can be copied. Inside a small research station, that ability becomes terrifying because suddenly no one knows who is still human. As paranoia spreads, trust collapses. Friends begin suspecting each other. Every conversation carries the fear that the creature might already be among them. What truly made The Thing unforgettable were its shocking practical effects. Grotesque transformations created through animatronics and mechanical puppetry still look disturbingly real today. Ironically, the film was criticized when first released for being too bleak. Today, it's considered one of the greatest sci-fi horror films ever made, proof that the most terrifying monster might already be sitting beside you. The Terminator, 1984. The message arrives from the future, not as a warning, but as an execution order. James Cameron's The Terminator begins with a chilling premise. In the future, an artificial intelligence known as Skynet launches a nuclear war that nearly wipes out humanity. The survivors form a resistance led by a man named John Connor. So the machines attempt something drastic. They send a cybernetic assassin back in time to 1984 with one mission: eliminate John Connor before he is born by killing his mother, Sarah Connor. What makes the film so terrifying is the simplicity of its villain. The Terminator doesn't hide in shadows. It walks openly through the world with mechanical determination. Bullets barely slow it down. Pain means nothing, and it will not stop. Arnold Schwarzenegger's performance turned the character into a science fiction icon. Minimal dialogue, cold precision, and relentless pursuit. But beneath the action lies a deeper fear. Technology created to serve humanity may eventually evolve beyond our control. Machines designed to protect us might decide that the most efficient future is one without us. With its gritty atmosphere and unstoppable villain, the Terminator redefined sci-fi action, and its chilling premise still feels disturbingly possible today. Akira, 1988. The explosion that destroyed Tokyo was only the beginning. In Akira, the rebuilt metropolis of Neo-Tokyo glows with neon lights, towering skyscrapers, and restless energy. Yet beneath the futuristic skyline lies a city on the edge of chaos, government corruption, civil unrest, and secret military experiments. The story follows Kaneda and Tetsuo, teenage members of a motorcycle gang navigating the violent streets of Neo-Tokyo. Their lives change forever when Tetsuo encounters a mysterious child with psychic powers during a high-speed chase. Soon after, Tetsuo begins developing terrifying abilities of his own, powers that governments once tried desperately to control. Director Katsuhiro Otomo's animated masterpiece stunned audiences with its scale and detail. Every frame was painstakingly hand-drawn, creating fluid motion and vast futuristic cityscapes rarely seen in animation at the time. Motorcycles race through neon highways, psychic energy shatters buildings, entire districts collapse in spectacular explosions. But beneath the spectacle lies a deeper story. Akira explores the dangers of unchecked power and the fragile balance between technology, politics, and human ambition. Its influence would ripple through global culture, shaping cyberpunk films, anime, and video games for decades. More than 30 years later, Neo-Tokyo still feels eerily futuristic. E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial, 1982. Sometimes the most extraordinary visitors arrive quietly. In Steven Spielberg's E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial, an alien exploration team briefly visits Earth to study plant life. When government agents approach unexpectedly, the creatures flee, accidentally leaving one of their own behind. Small, curious, and completely alone. The stranded alien soon encounters Elliot, a lonely boy struggling with the absence of his father. Instead of fear, Elliot feels something unusual when he meets the creature, a connection. Slowly, the two begin communicating, forming a bond that links their thoughts and emotions. E.T. learns about human life, while Elliot discovers the responsibility of protecting someone vulnerable. But E.T. cannot survive on Earth forever. His health begins fading as government scientists close in. What made the film extraordinary was Spielberg's decision to shift science fiction away from invasion stories toward childlike wonder. The world is seen through a child's imagination, where bicycles can soar across the moon and friendships can stretch across galaxies. The emotional impact was immediate. Audiences around the world connected with its themes of loneliness, empathy, and belonging. Decades later, the image of Elliot and E.T. flying across the moon remains one of cinema's most magical moments. Blade Runner, 1982. The future in Blade Runner is breathtaking and deeply unsettling. Ridley Scott imagined Los Angeles in the year 2019 as a city of neon lights, endless rain, and towering industrial structures. Humanity has expanded into space, creating genetically engineered androids known as replicants to perform dangerous labor on distant colonies. But some replicants return to Earth. He's illegal, desperate, and determined to live longer than their programmed lifespan. Rick Deckard is a Blade Runner, a detective assigned to hunt down these rogue replicants and retire them permanently. His latest mission brings him face to face with a group of fugitives searching for answers about their limited existence. Replicants are built with only 4 years to live, and they want to know why. As Deckard pursues them through rain-soaked streets and glowing skyscrapers, the boundary between human and artificial life begins to blur. Some replicants show compassion and fear, while many humans appear cold and indifferent. The film's atmosphere became legendary. Dense fog, flickering advertisements, and towering futuristic architecture creating one of cinema's most detailed visions of the future. But its real power lies in a haunting question. If an artificial being can feel love, fear, and hope, what truly separates it from us? And that question still echoes decades later. The 1980s didn't just imagine the future, they defined it. These films built worlds with practical effects, fearless storytelling, and ideas so powerful they still shape science fiction today. But the real question is this: which of these classics still feels the most futuristic to you? Tell us in the comments, and if you love timeless cinema, don't forget to subscribe for more.